Hello friends, welcome to my channel Ponvira Citadel. In continuation to my past videos on Paper 1 UGC NET, in this video we are going to discuss about the unit communication. And this unit communication is your fourth unit in your Paper 1 syllabus. Stay tuned. Well, friends, under the topic communication, we have many subtopics like you're going to learn the meaning, the definition of communication, and what are the various types of communication, and also about the nature and characteristics of communication. And you will be learning about what effective communication is and what is verbal communication and what is non-verbal communication, the difference between the two, and what is the meaning of intercultural and group communication, and also about classroom communication, very important from the point of view of the teacher training student who want to aspire to become teachers. It's very important. And also, what are the barriers to effective communication? What are the different types of barriers that we come across during communication, and how to avoid them, and what is meant by mass media and society. So these are all the topics we are going to cover today. See, the word communicate in communication, it means to share. It is a French word. So what is the meaning of communicate? It means to share. So naturally, any communication, it involves sharing of information and ideas. Sharing of information and ideas. And it may be concepts or news or whatever it may be. So there is always sharing of information. And it is the interaction between a sender and a receiver. The sender can be a single person or it can be many, and also the receiver can also a single person or it can be many. But there is always interaction. Whenever there is communication, there is interaction. And the process of communication involves the following. What are the sender? Of course, the sender is there, and some message and some medium of communication, which is sometimes also called as channel of communication, and a receiver will be there to receive the communication and the response and feedback from the receiver. These are all the components of any kind of communication, the basic components of any communication. Well, this slide shows the process of communication in a graphical form. And see here, there is a sender, which can be a single person or it can be many, who sends the message this way. The information flows this way. And he sends the message through a medium or a channel. Usually these two words, medium and channel, they are used interchangeably, but usually the medium refers to the language, or whether you are sending a written text or image or audio, and the channel refers to the tool or the platform which you are using for sending the information. It may be a WhatsApp or it may be a phone. So that is in a stricter sense, but usually they use both the words interchangeably. So whatever may be, the sender sends the information. How does he send it? He codes them, he encodes them in some kind of language. Maybe it's a secret language, or it may be a program, or it may be in English, or it may be in Tamil. So that is what is called coding. And the receiver on the other side who receives the information, he decodes them. So it's not only in programming, even for any information, the sender's information has got to be received and decoded by the receiver. That means it should be properly understood in the language. Suppose he sends the information in English, so naturally we would assume that the receiver should also know English, otherwise he has to use an interpreter. Anyway, he has to decode it in order to understand, get a meaningful message. So, and the passage of this information is through a medium or a channel. And from the receiver, you get a response. He says, yes, I got the message, I will do it. He may say some, after receiving some information, some instruction, he may say that I'll do it or I will not do it, I don't have time. That is the response. And the feedback. So, what will be the feedback? Say, whatever he says, the sender will receive the feedback from the receiver regarding the message or what is given in the message. So this is the whole process of communication. Who are all involved? The sender and the receiver, and it may be a group or it may be a single person or it may be the entire organization, whatever it may be. And he sends the message in the form of after encoding it, and the receiver has to decode it, and from his side the response and the feedback is given to the sender. So by means of this response and feedback, the sender will understand whether the receiver has received the information in the proper meaningful way, whether he has conveyed his message in the proper form. So that is the whole purpose of the response and the feedback. And coming to types of communication, there are many types. We will see one by one. The first thing being intrapersonal communication versus interpersonal communication. We are going to see the difference between both intra and interpersonal. I hope you are familiar with the word intra. Intra always refers to within self, and inter refers to between. This you should always know and you should never forget it. And intrapersonal communication is we communicate to ourselves within. I communicate to myself, you communicate to yourself. Only one person is involved. And this involves usually self-awareness, perception, and expectation. What am I going to communicate within myself? It's about self-awareness. What do I know? What do I believe? What are my views? Am I correct? Am I wrong? You know, we sometimes talk to ourselves, we think ourselves. So that is intrapersonal. It always involves awareness, perception, and expectation. What do I expect from the other party? So these are all the questions we ask ourselves. So that is intrapersonal communication. And there is always no need for a receiver. You are the sender and you are the receiver. And it can take place anywhere, anytime, isn't it? Because no second person is involved. It can take place anywhere and anytime. And there is no response and there is no feedback, right? And interpersonal is always between two persons or more. And it may be, when it is two persons, it is called dyadic communication. The word dyad means two, dyadic communication. And when it involves many receiver, it is called group communication. When it involves very big group of people, then it is called mass communication or public communication. And there is always response and feedback, because whenever there is a receiver, they are going to respond and they are going to give feedback. And it can be in the form of verbal, orally spoken, or written, or it can be non-verbal. And it can take place in informal or formal surroundings. What is formal surrounding? We will see that in the next type. So this is the difference between intra and interpersonal communication. Coming to formal, you can classify them in various respect. Okay, these are all group of classification based on different characteristics. And you can group or classify communication into two types: formal or informal communication based on the surroundings in which it takes place. Formal communication usually takes place in office, in institutions, or in schools, colleges. And usually they are, what happens in an office or in institutions, instructions are given, guidelines are given, orders are given to be obeyed, and plans and policies are given, and they are discussed, and they are debated, and they are communicated, and they are followed, and they are explained. All these things take place in a formal surroundings, in offices and institution. And informal communication takes place very casual manner, that is within the members of a family or between friends. You communicate, isn't it? Between friends and between our family members, we do communicate, but we don't use written form, we don't send letters, and it is very casual. And in the formal communication, we usually use predefined medium. We use a particular language, and also we use a particular medium channel like WhatsApp, or sometimes email or letter. But in informal communication, there is no predefined medium. Sometimes there is no medium at all. You communicate verbally, and sometimes we communicate by our gestures. We say, suppose you are eating and your mother wants to serve you with more of food. How do you say? You won't even open your mouth, you will just nod your head, you don't want it anymore. So that is informal communication. And usually the formal communication is more reliable, and informal communication is less reliable. That is why in the offices, everything they want in the written form. If somebody comes and asks for leave orally, what does the supervisor say? Go and get me a letter. So everything in written form. So that, because it should be reliable. Suppose the next boss asks the next day, you have to produce the letter. So the formal communication is more reliable, and the informal communication is less reliable. And what is grapevine communication? You should know this word, because sometimes questions are asked on it. Grapevine. Grapevine communication is informal, very much informal, more informal than the informal communication. And it happens sometimes in the offices. Sometimes you talk something about your colleagues or the boss secretly. You spread some rumors. So that is grapevine, that she's getting married to X, is in love with Y, and Y is getting married to Z. All this nonsense that spread fast. These rumors spread fast. This is called grapevine. The rumors that are spread informally in any organization is called grapevine communication. But the formal communication is usually slow, and there are always delays in your letters or in your emails. But the informal communication and the grapevine, imagine the grapevine communication spreads very fast. The rumors, they spread very fast. And formal is usually in written form or verbal form. But the informal will be usually in non-verbal or gestural And in formal, it is always the systematic flow of information. So it is always more effective. Formal is more effective. That is why they prefer to have everything in written form in the offices or institutions. And informal is, it is not systematic, but it is very efficient. Why efficient? It saves a lot of time. So you should know the difference. Because you don't have to type the letter, you don't have to make a call, you just tell the members. So it is more efficient. It saves time. So it is efficient, informal communication. But sometimes informal communication also takes place in big organizations. Suppose something you want to convey very fast, very urgently. Like something like tomorrow some inspection is coming. So you cannot wait for the staff to get a letter typed and get the circular circulated to all the members. What does the boss do? Immediately he calls a meeting and tells all the members, tomorrow some inspection is going to be there. You all come prepared with the documents and this and that. So why? Because it saves a lot of time. It becomes more efficient. But the formal communication is very effective because it is the flow of information is very systematic. We know whether the information has reached, to whom it has reached, and when did it reach. Everything we will come to know in formal. So these are all the differences between. And also one more difference, that in formal communication it is very easy to maintain the secrecy. Something you want to send confidential, you immediately write there in the letter confidential, so that it does not reach the unwanted person. But in informal communication, secrecy cannot be maintained easily. And also in formal communication, there cannot be any distortion of the information. But in informal, there is a lot of distortion. You will say one thing, but it will reach the receiver in a different way because of a lot of distortion while going through from person to person. There is always some addition, deletion, and you know. And in a formal communication, we also there are types called horizontal and vertical flow of information. What is horizontal? If the information flows between persons of equal rank, it is horizontal. Like between two departments, that is horizontal. You call 2 or 3 meetings through the departments of your office at the same time, and you pass on some information or you pass on some circular. That is horizontal flow of information. And what is vertical flow of information? Vertical, it can be two-way, upward, word. It can be upward or downward flow of information. What is upward? From lower rank to the higher official. In the hierarchy, there is always a hierarchy in your office, no? From the lowermost to highermost, what will it go? Feedback and complaints, grievances, and this is upward. Grievances are upwards. From the lower rank, the grievance letter is sent to the topmost officer. So this is upward flow of information. And what is downward? The instructions or circulars and policies are sent from the top, the higher person, the person in the higher hierarchy, to the lower person. There is a downward flow of information. And that is usually circulars and policies and guidelines, and also your performance appraisal report, which is sent from top to bottom. So this is horizontal flow or vertical flow of information, the communication. And what are the other things? And sometimes it can be diagonals also. What is diagonal? The information flow between persons of different ranks, any rank, irrespective of the any rank. And what is direct communication versus mediated communication? Is direct means face to face. You call a person and tell him something. That is direct. And mediated means it is mediated through some channels, like it can be email or a letter, maybe a letter or email. So, or it may be through a phone, radio, TV, anything. So that is mediated communication. It's not direct. WhatsApp. And what is contiguous and non-contiguous? Contiguous is again direct contact. The receiver and the sender are in direct contact, face to face. But non-contiguous, mediated, maybe mediated through radio and TV. So this is another word for contiguous. Direct is contiguous and mediated is non-contiguous. Okay. In nature and characteristics of communication. So we will discuss one by one the characteristics of communication. It is an art and science. Communication is both art and science. Usually we separate art and science completely. We put them in different departments, different compartments. Art group, science group students. But here we say communication is both an art and a science. Why? Because you have so many principles. And where do you see principles, theories? You see them only in science. So it is a science. That way it is a science. And it is an art. Why? Because it involves creativity. So whenever there is creativity, it's an art. So it is both an art and science. So both are involved. It is a complex process. It is not as simple as that. Communication is not very simple. So you have to learn how to communicate yourself properly and how to communicate yourself effectively, efficiently. So it is a complex process. And it involves flow of information and ideas, concepts. And the flow is from the receiver to sender, and then from the sender to receiver, and then from the receiver to sender. So, and even though it is a complex process, it is learnable. You can learn it step by step. You can develop that art of communication. You can learn the principles lying behind the science of communication. One can learn it and improve one's skill in communication. That is why there are a lot of communication courses available. Communicate properly, how to communicate effectively, many courses are available. And it is a dynamic process. It's not static. It is not as simple as the sender giving out the information and he receiving it. No, it is not static, but it is dynamic. Why? Because the sender has to encode the message and the receiver has to decode it, and he has to send again response and feedback. It is a cyclical, and again the based upon the feedback and the response, the sender has to improve his ideas and then send it again to the receiver. So it is a cyclical and continuous process. It keeps on going. It does not end there. In any organization, even in a school, see, the teacher teaches, the student learns, and sometimes the students, the teacher gives test, the students are not able to respond properly, very poor feedback, so the teacher teaches again, follows different method, improves her teaching, improves the method of communication. So, and gives the test again. So here both of them send as well as receive ideas. So both the sender and the receiver, they function as both sender and receiver, because sometimes the receiver also sends messages. What message he sends, that I am able to understand by giving the proper response. or I am not able to understand your teaching by giving the wrong response. So both the sender and the receiver give ideas and take ideas. So that is why it is a dynamic process and cyclical or continuous. And we have seen in the earlier slide that it can be direct or indirect. Direct means a face-to-face contact. I'm talking to you in front of you. That is a direct communication. And indirect through some medium or channel. I use a phone, or I use a mic, or I use a TV. I talk to you. Communicate something like the politicians. The TV, they do campaigning, they give tall promises, the election manifesto. All these are indirect communication. And the communication can be formal and informal. I've told enough for formal and informal. We talked about grapevine communication. Remember the same thing. And coming to the next point, 7 C's of communication. What are the 7 C's? Let us list them one by one. Before that, let me raise the Bible space. Now the 7 C's of communication. Let me list them out. The first C is, let me start with clarity. First C is clarity. And then comes complete. Why is it coming this way? The second C is complete. The third C is correctness. The fourth C is conciseness. The fifth C is concreteness. The sixth C is courtesy. And the seventh C is consideration. See, these are all so all these aspects should be there in your communication. Clarity. It should be clear. Whatever message you send, there should be clarity. Whether it's a voice message or your email or a letter or WhatsApp message, anything, there should be clarity in your speech or in your written text, isn't it? Otherwise, the whole purpose of communication will be defeated. Clarity, that's why I put it in the first one. And then it should be complete. Incomplete information or incomplete message will lead to chaos. If suppose you are giving some direction and suppose you stop it, it's not complete, what will happen to the receiver? He will break his head. He cannot. The whole purpose of communicating is to make yourself understood by the receiver. And if you are not able to achieve it, there is no point in communication. And correctness, whatever message or ideas or concept you are sending should be correct. We don't want any wrong information, right? And it should be concise, precise. You should follow the principle of KISS. You know what is KISS? I put, in between period. KISS. Keep it simple and short. So always your messages, your communication should be kissing the receiver. What does it mean? Keep it simple and short. So conciseness, precise, concreteness. It should be concrete enough. If you give some abstract concept, nobody will understand. So they should be able to see the sense in it. They should be able to hear the point in it. It should be concrete. And you should be not, last but not in the least, courtesy and consideration. You should be courteous. You should be polite in your language. And also, you should be considerate enough for the other party. Suppose you are giving some direction, you want them to do it all the 11 or 12 instruction the same hour. If you don't give them enough time for them to read, understand and carry it out, that means you are not considerate. So this is all the 7 C's of communication. So you should master all these skills. That is why we call it as both art and science. See, there are principles by which you can learn the principle. How does the KISS principle help in making the communication success? And it is an art. Being courteous is an art. Definitely it is an art. Being polite, being well mannered in your speech and writing is an art which can be learned. And the last but not the least, the purposive activity, because communication has got some purpose. Without purpose, you are not going to communicate to anybody. If you are going to, if you are sending an email to your superior, there is something, some purpose. So which your communication should fulfill. By following all the criteria, you can make your communication effective. And now, in this we are going to see the characteristics of effective communication. First of all, what is effective communication? For a communication to be effective, the sender, both the sender and the receiver, derive a common meaning or a common interpretation. Then the communication is said to be effective. That means the receiver receives what the sender sends. So that is effective. Suppose the sender sends something, he says something, and if the receiver receives something, he interprets some other meaning. So then that is not effective communication. So that is why we say it is an art. The way you communicate. It's very important. Your language is important. And the selection of the medium is important. Whether you are going to say it orally or written or email or WhatsApp or whatever it is. The channel you are choosing is very important. And the way you put in your words is important. So all this makes an effective communication. And also a good communicator is a good listener too. So you should be good in both sending the message and receiving it. We have seen that in a communication, in a good effective communication, the sender and the receiver both act both the roles. The sender sends the message, the receiver receives the message, then the receiver sends the message to the sender, response is feedback to the sender, he interprets it, and then he sends again another message. So it's a cyclic process. So the sender has to behave the role of a receiver and the receiver as a sender. And both of them should be able to communicate well, both oral and text. And also they should be good listeners. Otherwise, the communication will not be effective. And now we'll see what are the 4 S of communication. We saw 7 C's of communication. Now we'll see what are the 4 S of communication. First thing is shortness. First thing is the information or the message should be short. Shortness. And second one, it should simplicity. We saw the KISS principle. Shortness, simplicity, and strength and sincerity. See, the message should be very short, brief, and simple, to the point, no beating around the bush. And whenever you give any unnecessary information, usually in your communication, any Unnecessary information is called as noise. You know, noise. So it may be a full complete information, but we don't want that in that particular context. So it becomes a noise. Usually this is an important question they may ask you. You may think that noise is something very, in the high syllable, high decibel, but that is not only that is noise, but also some unnecessary information. If you are, for example, you are communicating to your friend that you are arriving Chennai Central Station by Thursday on some particular train the time. So when you are communicating this message to your friend, you should say the name of the train, then the day, Thursday or Friday, whatever it is, then the time. That's all. Instead, you are calling him in 10:30 in the morning while he is in the office, and you tell him, Hare Bhaiya, I got up at 7:30 itself in the morning. I went to the market. I bought some fruits for this thing. All these things, they are not important. They are unnecessary. They are noise. They are called as noise. All that you want is at the time of you are in a hurry, you want to catch the train, and you have to communicate to the friend what you want to convey, the message in short, simple form. All the other information, they are called noise. Got it? And what is strength? Strength is you should choose the medium, proper medium. Suppose you want to convey whether it is email or orally, or you want to write a letter. So that all depends on that is called the strength. And also if you are selected as the oral communication, then you should use your strength of the words. Certain times some words are polite, some words are strong. You should know the context, when to use what. And sincerity, you have to do communication is again I repeat, it's an art and science, so you have to, it is learnable, and in order to be it is a purposeful activity. So in order to make it effective, you got to be very sincere in your efforts, in your communication. Whatever you want to convey, choose the correct medium, correct channel, and use the correct language, and choose the correct words, and be courteous and be considerate for the other party, the receiver. So with all that sincerity, if you do it, it will be effective. And effective communication, there are different types of effective communication. We have discussed already verbal and non-verbal communication. Verbal is, they are spoken words and they are told, and it is usually in real time, face to face, in real time, that you are talking now and they are listening right now. And non-verbal may be written or gesture form, and it includes letters, emails, document, etc. And non-verbal communication is as important as verbal or written one. See, it is very surprising to know, but it is true. What you don't say also matters sometimes, especially when you attend some interview. The way you walk into the room, the way you occupy your chair, the way you use your eye contact, the way you're dressed up, the way you use your hands, your gestures, all these matter. So please make a note of it. Please bear it in mind. Even your smiles and your frowns are studied by the interviewer. They carry marks. So that is why I told that communication is an art and a science as well. And it is learnable. You can cultivate these habits, how you walk, how you sit, what is your body language. Everything can be cultivated. And that is non-verbal communication. And intercultural What is intercultural? Between different cultures, between people of different culture. The communication takes place between people belonging to different cultures. For example, even in India itself, you visit some other state and people, they have different culture, they have different language, they have different beliefs, they worship different gods, they have different rituals, they have different values, and their dressing is different. So if you communicate with, and you always use your common language, usually English being the international language, you use English as the medium of your communication, and that is intercultural communication. And group communication may be within your group or between groups. And example, a seminar, a debate, a group discussion, they are all example for group communication. And what is mass communication or public communication? That is, you communicate to a large number of people. The audience is very huge. And in public communication, you see them face to face. You are right in front of them on a stage with a mic, and a lot of people are gathered there, and you talk to them. That is public communication. While in the case of mass communication, it is not face to face, but you address the people by means of TV or radio or whatever, or a conference, web conference, you know. And coming to classroom communication, very important from the teacher's point of view. And here in a classroom, always a two-way flow of information should be there. The information should flow to the student, and the information should flow from the student to the teacher also. That is why we say it should be two-way. Then only the communication will be effective. Otherwise, the lecture method is usually not preferred. Why? Because it is always one-way flow of information from the teacher to the student. From the teacher talks. So it is only one way in communication, but that is not preferred. But in an effective classroom, the communication should be two-way, because the teacher plays the role of guide, facilitator, mentor, and motivator. So always the flow should be in two ways. Then only you call the classroom communication as effective. See here, we are listing some of the ways by which teacher can effectively manage classroom communication. How to manage a classroom effectively. So many points we have already discussed. We'll go through it very fast. Be clear. So clarity of your thought, ideas and concept, your information we have talked about. And KISS principle also, you know what it is about. Keep it simple and short. And be humorous. Yes, the teacher is supposed to be humorous in the classroom, because in order to make the connection with the students long lasting, and also to make the classroom effective, the teacher should be uh, somewhat witty, humorous in her way of teaching. She should adapt various methods. And I'll tell you a humorous anecdote in which a clever teacher, and how she covered the classroom with her humorous idea. She was discussing about the Greek philosopher Socrates. And you know, his method of teaching is through asking questions. Socrates always asks questions to his disciples. Then he will answer that, and he will ask the disciples themselves to answer the question. And if they are not able to do it, he will help. In the same way, so she decided to involve the students. She decided to make the students participate in the demonstration. She asked, "Who can tell me the famous saying of Socrates?" So immediately one girl, X, raised her hand and she confidently told, Socrates said, I know that I know nothing. I know that I know nothing. So immediately the teacher nodded appreciatively and then said, very good. Now, Think about this for a moment. If Socrates himself knew that he knew nothing, who is supposed to be a very great philosopher and intelligent, wise man, what does that say about the rest of us? She asked the question to the students. Immediately, one at another girl, she blurted out, "It means we are all in big trouble." So the entire class burst into laughter. So the teacher further took it up. So that wisdom is not about knowing everything. It is about recognizing what you don't know and being open to learning. So, my friends, let's embrace our inner Socrates and never stop asking questions. So, she cleverly conveyed the timeless wisdom of humility and the pursuit of knowledge to the student. So, this is just an example for being humorous. Not only being humorous, but at the same time she conveyed whatever she wanted to convey to the classroom. And empathy is feeling for others, that putting oneself in the shoes of the other. The teacher should know. Sympathy is different from empathy. Sympathy is showing, like I see a beggar on the road, I give him food or money. That is sympathy. But empathy is uh, like suppose one girl comes to my class very late, and I know her background that she is going for work. She earns her livelihood and she earns the bread for the entire family. In spite of that, she's attending the classes. So I am empathetic towards her. I know what is her background, what is her plight. So I allow her without asking her too many questions, without making her embarrassed. I allow her to come late into the classroom. See, that is empathy. Putting oneself into the shoes of the other, understanding their position and acting accordingly. And promote equity and equality. What is the difference between equity and equality? Equality is very simple. That is equal. You treat all of them as equals. That is equality. And equity, there is one more equal plus one more element is involved. That is some kind of justice is there. What justice is there? For example, in a classroom for a test, I give 45 minutes for writing duration for all the students. But for a visually challenged girl, I give 50. So, why this 55 minutes for this visually handicapped child? This is equity because she needs more time. She's visually challenged. She's not a normal child. So she requires more time, extra 10 minutes. So that is equity. Here, it is not just equality, but some amount of social justice is involved. So this is equity. Equality is equal. All students should get 45 minutes. I don't give 50 minutes to my friend and my favorite student and 55 to the best first rank holder. No, it's not that. All of them are given 45 minutes. That is equality. But this visually challenged girl is given 55 minutes, extra 10 minutes because it is social justice. So now we've got the difference between equity and equality. All right, now know your subject. The teacher should know what subject. Suppose she's teaching English, she should be competent in English. She should know all the grammar rules and everything. She should know the literature. So that is knowing the subject. Not only the subject, she should know the students also. There is a proverb saying if you want to teach John French, you should know both French and you should know John. See, you should know who are your students, what do they need, what are their interests, what are their strength, what is what are their weaknesses, everything the teacher should know. Only then the classroom will be effective. That is why we say know your subject and know your students, and encourage students participation. Always the teacher should encourage the participation of the student. They should ask questions, the teacher should ask questions, they should answer, then the students should ask questions, the teacher should answer. So there should be always two-way communication, and ask questions, let students ask questions, plan all classroom activities. So previous day itself, the teacher should be ready with all the activities. What is that I'm going to teach? What method I'm going to use? What is the exercise I'm going to give? Everything should be planned prior to the class. And respect the students. Give respect and take respect. Give them choice. Sometimes you have to take the choice of the students. Ask them, what do you want to learn today? You want to learn the poem, or you want to do the drama? You have to consult with the student and ask their choice also. But at the same time, don't tolerate bad behavior. If somebody is there bullying the others, if somebody is there disrupting the class, it doesn't mean the teacher has to be very polite and tolerate the behavior. Immediately you have to take action. Either you should punish him, or correct him, or send him home, or call the parents, or whatever is needed. So being kind is different, and being a good teacher is different. And break the monotony. We don't want a monotony in the classroom. Repeatedly the same thing happening in the classroom. Everybody will get bored. So especially the students, very fast. So you have to break the monotony. Then and there you give passes. You change the topic. You change the method. You change your voice. So break the monotony and reinforce learning. Whatever you have learned already, you reinforce it. Make it strong by asking questions. And active listening. The teacher should also be a listener, not only just keep on talking. She should also be a listener and give necessary passes. So don't continuously keep talking. Give passes wherever necessary. Change your tone, change the place, change the topic. So in order to break the monotony. So these are all some of the techniques which should be used in your classroom for effective communication to take place. Now we have come to the end of the video, and we'll be discussing about the barriers in communication and media and society in the next video. The part of the unit communication will be dealt with in the next video. And here we are listing the functions and objectives of communication. What purpose it serves communication? It's you know that it's the flow of information or knowledge from the sender to receiver, and it also helps in learning, training, skill development. You know, throughout learning we are using some type of communication. It may be formal, informal, or it may be two-way, or it may be group communication, whatever it may be the type of the communication is involved. And in training, communication is involved, and skill development, communication is involved. And then goal setting, also communication is involved. So we communicate to other what is the goal and what are the various steps to achieve it. So communication is involved, and in our planning, communication is involved. And the response and feedback. See, the response and the feedback from the receiver helps in understanding whether the message has reached the receiver correctly, and whether the receiver has understood it in the proper context. And the feedback helps the sender to modify his method, modify his medium, modify his channel of communication for improvement. Feedback is always for improvement. So these are the main functions or the objectives of communication, or any communication for that matter. See, I have given some quiz. There are 4 questions given and you are supposed to answer them. They are all related to communication. You know that communication is very important in building up a relationship. And here steps are given. Various steps are given. So you have to find out the correct sequence of these steps in which a relationship is built. If you want to build a relationship, and what is the order, the sequence. See, the first one, I have given the answer. Please don't look into the answer. Try to answer, understand the answer. Initial encounter, integration, experimenting, intensifying, and bonding. These two are correct. Initial encounter, initial meeting, first meeting with your relationship, whatever relationship it may be. The first meeting. And final thing is bonding. We want bond with the relationship. So these two are very clear, isn't it? So look for the order where you get them. One, here also it is there. Initial encounter and bonding is the ending. And here initial encountering is there, but no bonding here. And here no initial encounter goes in the middle. Cannot be. It is initial beginning. And bonding, always in a relationship, the end result is bonding, right? But here the initial is not. So only between the A and B. So the correct answer should be only between A and B. Now find out initial encounter, experimenting, integration, experimenting. What is experimenting? You do something, you talk to them, you communicate to them what they like, what they don't like. All these are experimenting. So first you will experiment, and then only you will integrate all that, and then intensifying. So you become again, you strengthen your experiments, keep on communicating, intensifying, and then finally you integrate whatever you have learned by your experimentation. You integrate all the knowledge into your relationship, and finally bonding will result, right? You first meet your the relationship, maybe your boyfriend or girlfriend, let us say, okay, and then what do you experiment, what do you, whether you like to give her birthday present or take her out, you are experimenting, and then you are intensifying. You see that she likes it, so you intensify it, and then you integrate it, you do it more and more often, so you become bonded with her. All right, the order B is the correct answer. Got it? See the second question. Now here you have to choose the sequence of steps in which a relationship ends. So exactly the reverse of what the previous one, where the relationship begins. But here, to end a relationship, what is the sequence? See, this is the clue. End of the relationship. What is the sequence of steps? Termination. This word is the clue. So termination should be the last word. So only these three have the termination as the final step, where the relationship is ended, over. So these three should be your consideration. You need not look into the A. And here see the order, and circumscribing, stagnating, avoidance, differentiating. What is circumscribing? That is, you put a limitation in the relationship. That is not the, yeah, this is the first step. No, first step is differentiating. You start differentiating. How do you want to, when will the relationship show some strain? When you start differentiating. It is mine, it is yours. I have come in time, you didn't answer my call. So you started differentiating, mine, yours. And then circumscribing. That means you are putting some kind of limit. You draw a line. See, only I will call you only weekends, not every day. So you are limiting. And then stagnating. You are not contacting that whoever the relationship. And then avoidance. You completely purposely you avoid wherever suppose accidentally you see that person, you avoid. That will lead to termination. So this is the correct sequence. See? So out of the three, see this circumscribing comes first. Differentiating goes in the end. No. First thing you do is, suppose you don't want a relationship, the first thing you do is differentiation. You see the differences between you and the other person. Isn't it? Then only you put a somewhere limit. Then you stagnate. Stop it there. And you avoid. Altogether you avoid. Then termination. See the order, the sequence of steps. See, this is all regarding to communication. How you communicate. First you start differentiating. Then mine is this thing, yours is this thing. In your words, in your behavior, in your written communication, everything you show differences. Then you put limit. Then you stop doing it. Then you avoid and then terminate. And that is the end of it. There goes. Bye bye. So see the third question. The difference between mass communication and public communication is that, see, we have already discussed the previous slides. What is the difference between mass communication and public communication? Whenever the word public is there, that means a huge public is in front of you, face to face. Physical presence is there. And in mass communication, no physical presence. You will address them through some mass media. Okay? And see which one says this. In public communication, the physical presence of audience is there, correct? And this one is correct. And while in mass communication, the message is conveyed through some medium like TV, radio, newspaper. Yes, correct. And second statement, just we'll see A1, one is the answer. Okay, good. But anyway, we'll look into the second one. In public communication, the physical presence of audience is not there. So this is wrong. And mass communication, the message is conveyed through some medium. The second part of the statement is correct, but we want both the things to be correct. So first is the correct one. And come to the third option. In public communication, the message is conveyed through some medium. No, it is wrong. And you did not go into the second part at all. But anyway, we will see. The physical presence of the audience is there. So this part is correct, but this is wrong. The last option, in public communication, the physical presence of audience is there, correct? While in mass communication, the message is conveyed through some medium like physical presence. Again, this is wrong. So this is right. So both the things are correct as in the first option. So we have selected answer 1. See, the last question is, in a classroom communication, feedback should be used to criticize students. No, never should criticize students. Plan future activities. Yes, that is why we want the feedback. And make improvements. Yes, that is why the teacher wants always feedbacks from the students, so that she can improve her way of communication, whatever it is. So the correct answer, both 2 and 3. Yes, 2 and 3. Answer 4 is the correct. Well, friends, that is all in this video today in communication. The other subtopics under communication, like barriers to effective communication, and mass media and society, I will come up with the next video, maybe within 2 or 3 days. Until then, prepare for the upcoming NET exam. I think it's on June 16th, am I right? All of you are going to write in the same date. So this time all question papers will be of the same type, same difficulty level. So there isn't going to be any normalization of scores. You should know this. Why there was normalization in the previous NET exam? Because the exams were conducted in different sessions and different question papers were used, and the level of difficulty would have been different. So in order to compensate for that, to eliminate any bias, they did that normalization procedure. But now all of you are going to have in one nation, one exam, one time. There is no need for normalization. Okay, all the best. Bye bye.